Chad, thanks so much for joining the show today. To get started, tell us what's that quick kind of background you have with UX?
Yeah. I'm actually technically a late bloomer on the UX game. I started making websites with cracked software like Dreamweaver back in the day. Really got into front end web development, but then very quickly discovered I loved building UI and I did not love typing HTML or JavaScript. So kind of went hard into UI. And then there was like a lot of feedback in my junior days of like, oh, this is beautiful. Who's going to use this? And so pairing with folks who were really focused on user experience, um, I learned from doing over the years and figured out that, oh, I guess UX is first actually. So now I kind of combined UI and front end development under the UX umbrella. And yeah, got to work at places like CloudBees and Docker and now Atlassian,
Hell yeah.
just building tools.
That's awesome. Thanks for some insight on that journey. You're one of those top 10% of designers that I talk to that's really kind of outside of Figma and using AI to the fullest. Can you give us a quick kind of insight into what that flow looks like for you designing with AI? I know the tools are changing every day, so maybe less emphasis on the tools, but just like what does that flow look like for you these days?
Yeah. There's the well, first and foremost, I think everybody knows about vibe coding. I very quickly moved out of vibe coding and I do now what's called rage coding. The LLM will spit back some crazy stuff sometimes, but we're starting to see a lot of other workflows emerge where it's not chat based. Cursor is a great example. I know you don't want to go too far into tools, but like
No, it's
the advent of Cursor or Windsurf or even plugins inside of VS Code that kind of merge the two worlds where I can chat, but my workspace and my material that I'm working with is also super accessible. I'm seeing a lot of speed. I guess the collapse of time between idea and then here, person, click on this and tell me how you feel. The advent of AI just kind of just speeds everything up, speeds up the fun stuff, and then automates kind of the not fun stuff. So
yeah,
kind of where
no, that makes sense. And is this strictly, I know you work a lot with design systems. Is that where you're seeing the advantages today with AI, or are you talking about the entire end-to-end design process?
Yeah, I think I'm just personally biased because I am design first and kind of focused on that front end build. But yeah, that's a really good question. I think for me personally, it does come to the design system because when you start working with a robot or several agents, several robots, what they spit out is going to be against their training and not necessarily what your client or your company or even what your idea is. And so wrangling agents and their outputs by giving them a token set, a design system where all your design decisions are made. uh, this helps predict the output a lot more. And so when I don't have to fight, and again, of rage code, when I don't have to like start cursing at the robot and being like, you asshole, why did you change my button from green to blue? It's been blue for the last week. Like that kind of junk. It's like, no, I can just use natural language, use the primary button, use this component set, use this template, and then just let me get to my ideas.
Yeah, there's a lot more constraints and consistency when you have it plugged into a mature design system. That makes a lot of sense.
I'm
Yeah,
even seeing teams build design systems and serving them as API. I'll hit you with a link after this. I'm seeing, I mean, once you have your design system together, you don't really need to argue about UI. You can focus on UX and then the UI that the robots are drawing from, really predictable.
yeah, that makes a ton of intuitive sense. I think that's a great use case. Let's get into some more controversial topics. It's mid February 2026 right now as we
Hell yeah.
speak. This past 2 weeks in the stock market, SaaS is dead. Every day on LinkedIn, I see now more and more Figma's dead. I think the stock's down 80%. Let's start with Figma. I think you maybe we have differing opinions on both of these, so let's get into it. Why do you think Figma's dead if you do?
Man, they rose above everybody. I mean, I remember when Figma dropped, we were all, Sketch was the new thing, right? And everybody was in Sketch, and we were like, "Oh, what's Envision gonna do?" I mean, I distinctly remember those days. How is Envision gonna revolutionize prototyping using flows inside of Sketch? And then boom, Figma just railroads everybody, including Adobe XD, Adobe Photoshop, Illustrator, Sketch, whatever everybody else was using at the time. But then they just kind of sat. And I think they maybe, and so this is where my opinion's coming in. I think they over rotated on trying to make designer to developer handoff better, where I think that process was broken from the jump and they over rotated on something that is just, we don't need better handoff. We need no handoff. We need full collaboration and integration. And so now it seems like they're chasing um, V0. I think they're chasing Lovable Replit with Figma Make, and they don't totally understand what or why we would even want to build that. And I think everybody's just, I mean, we were talking about Pencil the other day. There's this brand new, collaborative workspace where you can work with agents and humans, and you can just build out workflows in an infinite canvas that we all love. And it's just like, I want to build like that. And I want to bring in my developers and have them look under the hood and see the React while we're all building. A space where a designer and a developer can work together is what I think we need. And I don't think Figma is speaking to that at all.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good argument. I think the problem I have is when you look back to that era of what replaced Sketch or replaced Adobe, we were pointing to a singular tool. Everyone's like, what is Figma? But now that landscape is like 500 different tools. You mentioned Lovable, VO, Replit. I don't know which one of those is going to win. I know probably one of those will exist in 2 years. And I actually think it's a leadership problem at Figma. Like Dylan Field, the current CEO, when they IPO'd, said they were going to acquire a bunch of AI tools, right? They acquired like some small Israeli one, and that's it, right? I think you bring in a new CEO and you buy a pencil and you buy, I don't know about Lovable. I think it's pretty comparable to make. I think the problem that I see with those vibe coding tools you mentioned is that output it's frankly trash. Like if I go into Lovable,
Agree. I do agree with that.
I can see that from a mile away. And like, yes, for 0 to 1, a lot of this LinkedIn hype is, well, I created this app in 12 minutes. Yeah, we know you did. Yeah, I can tell it's lovable, and that doesn't translate to a scalable design or a scalable application. But that could all change soon. I think they have the momentum, and the interesting thing is they're about to start charging for Figma Make, so maybe they'll get some more revenue to acquire some of these companies. But I think you have a good point, and I keep seeing it more and more that people aren't using Figma as much, which is catastrophic to a high growth company that just went public. Like it's not a good sign. So that is a good point. Let's move on to a different narrative, which I don't agree with. Maybe I'll be proven wrong and eat my words in a year, but this whole like SaaS is dead thing. Like I think Claude released a new product a week ago or 2 weeks ago, and the stock market's like, oh my God, every SaaS tool is dead. What is your thoughts on that broader kind of context of SaaS is dead?
Hey, man, I mean, I think we've all been ethically making money via SaaS subscriptions and paying into SaaS subscriptions, and I think it's a system that's worked for so long. But just a totally anecdotal story. When I was at Docker, we were building some brand new agents internally, and in the process of dog fooding them, we really wanted to focus and see what some of the non-technical technical people, so like our sales team, what could they do with it? They're not coders, but they absolutely understand the technology. And we were watching sales folks like hook in their Salesforce, so their CRM. They were hooking in their Google Docs and their spreadsheets, and they were using our agent to bridge these tools that would never talk to each other to get reports, to get stack rankings, to get okay, these customers are crushing it, these customers are at risk. And just a week's worth of work was an afternoon,
Mhm.
um, somewhat fighting with an agent, but also walking away with an artifact that was completely usable. And there was no SaaS subscription that could speak to what they needed and what they were building themselves. So that total anecdote, but like in this new advent of agentic workflows and MCP and now skills, agent skills, we're seeing people being able to just connect things like they've never connected before in these SaaS-less, subscriberless kind of ways. I think it shows one of the major pitfalls of SaaS.
Interesting. Yeah, I think the thing that gets missed from this from my perspective is sure if there's like a super basic SaaS, tool that's just an API or some calendar update tool that you can replicate, yeah, probably screwed. But if you're talking about like a HubSpot or a Salesforce, what that tool is actually doing is replacing the need for a dev to maintain a CRM. It's done, it's maintained for you, it's secure, it's compliant. You can
Yep.
sue them if that tool breaks. The problem I have with the SaaS is dead narrative is like, hey, I vibe coded this, salespeople use it. that doesn't have an intuitive interface. The salespeople aren't going to know how to use it. It doesn't follow Jacob's law. The other problem is iterating upon that and evolving that and ensuring it's secure next quarter and that it scales correctly. Yes, you can build it overnight, but I don't think that's necessarily the value of SaaS. Like a $100 a month subscription for a salesperson isn't that expensive. I think the other point here that's not talked about is if you look at Google anti-gravity, I was just in the tool today. I hit the limits and it said upgrade. It's $250 a month. To me, that says Google's charging the actual cost of compute. So everyone's like, it's free to build in Anthropic. It's free in ChatGPT. It's subsidized is what's really going on. So I'm not convinced that that cost is going to be cheaper once that VC money dries up. I think it will be actually very expensive to be using these AI tools, especially once that market consolidates, right? Like so a lot of these tools are going to fall off. They're not going to make it. They're not going to reach profitability. And then it looks like what I think every other thing that happens in tech is kind of like an oligopoly. It's Microsoft versus Google. It's AWS versus, versus
I think you have a point.
Google Cloud. That's when the prices start to go up and you see that real pricing. So I'm curious what the benefit of SaaS is. Is it just simple tool solving this problem and there's competitors keeping that price low? And maybe there's some repricing going on the market, but how do you see that part? Because it seems to me like, yeah, we could build it, but how do you maintain it? How do you secure it long term?
That's such a good question. Like, honestly, I wanted to argue with you, but if I even just look at my own usage, every time Dropbox, and I've been a subscriber for Dropbox for 10 years now, every time they're like, hey, you want to upgrade? We got these extra features. I'm like, no, I don't. Let's keep it at 15 a month. I don't need anything else. You're doing it. It's a service I can't really do for myself. But every time Cursor or Claude Code specifically hits me with, hey, buddy, you're at your limit, I'm like, no, I didn't. Here's my credit card. Like, it's almost not a thought. Like, I need to keep this on. I don't know if that's psychological or emotional or like I'm getting something that nothing else can give me. And the $100 a month that I'm on with Claude right now doesn't feel painful. It feels like, okay, how do I ride this wave? Because I know I'd probably want to give them more money, but I really should keep a budget, right? Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know if I answered your question or if there's parts I missed, but like, is it SaaS? Is it some? It's like I'm wanting access to not just my agents, but to the environment that they're in and the capability to maintain those connections to my other tools. It's a bit of a SaaS play. It's a bit of a platform play. And it's just access to like my superpower right now. I don't want to lose. Very complicated.
Yeah, yeah, you don't want to fall behind. It's like that FOMO that they have that advantage of like, oh,
There
I
is
got to
some of that.
have pod
Absolutely.
code, right? Like, I think you're getting to a different question. Maybe I'm wrong on all these assumptions, and this is my worst take of all time. But let's say one of these AI tools, or many of them, win. I keep seeing Claude or Anthropic as a winner. What tools do you think are going to be here in a year and evolve and be like the go-tos?
Oh, man.
Like, what impresses you the most after? Yeah, and you've been in this space for like years of experimenting with AI.
I'm gonna keep coming to Cursor. They took Claude, Sonnet, they took a fork of VS Code, and then they have made something Gestalt, right? Neither two are it of themselves, but together it's this whole new IDE. Think we're in a world where builders are gonna show us that, the next year. I mean, Anthropic, I don't think they're going for the everyman, the every woman persona. I think they are really niched down for builders. And I think Claude is trying to be the every person platform. And another anecdote, if you go to OpenAI's tooling and say how many R's are in Strawberry, it'll say there's one at the front and one at the back. But if you go to Anthropic's model, pretty much any of them, you ask the same question, it will spell it out and then it will count them. And so it comes down to training. But I think the company that is training these models for humans, I think it's going to come down to what are they building it for? And I think Anthropic is a good example of who's going to be around. Google was a hind runner and now they're a front runner. You were just
Yeah.
talking about anti-gravity. I use Notebook LLM. Gemini is becoming way more capable for just a quick, like, I don't even web search anymore. I just go to Gemini, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I think the differentiator there is what are they building their models for? Are they just trying to be like hey, we're close to singularity. And it's like, no, you're not. Or are you trying to build a tool that helps me X what I'm already trying to do? I think companies like Google and Anthropic are going to be here. There's probably going to be some new ones. I just saw a new model, Kimi, Kimi, come online, and they're crushing it.
Nice. Yeah, love that. What one of the other things then is like, okay, if anyone can build software overnight, what's the moat? Like, how do you build a product if someone else can build that product in 12 minutes?
Ah, this is so good. Yeah. Because we are watching Anthropic and OpenAI like kind of shit on these up and coming startups and these new ideas. Oh, and they just bake it in. And so now, why wouldn't I just give more money to Anthropic? It becomes the question, sleep negating any moat someone might have.
Yep.
Such a good question. I think you have to, it might be coming down to really niche problems and really solid solutions for those niche problems. I don't think there's going to be a docs for everyone ever again, like Google Docs eating Microsoft Word. I don't think there's going to be somebody, Notion, Obsidian, nobody's eating Google Docs, but they are niching down into very specific use cases where I think that's going to be part of the play. I think part of the moat might be we have very specific solutions for docs. We have very specific solutions for image gen, video gen, code gen. We have very specific tools for a very specific workflow or outcome or persona, job to be done. And then in that collection, there's strength. And so I'll subscribe to that platform because it gives me the tooling. I don't know that we're going to see Dropbox plus AI eats Dropbox. You know what I mean?
Chad, final question for me. What advice do you have for designers navigating this AI era?
Oh man, hot take, hot take. So I use the term artificial intelligence. Everyone's using the term AI, but it's just not. It is artificial. It is not intelligent. What we're looking at, and designers, sober up on this and get right with this, but like have fun with this. We're talking about real machine learning. We're talking about real natural language processing, Markov chains, and we're talking about real information technology automation. So if we push aside the hype of the AI and the robots are going to take our jobs, it's like, no, get out of here. But when we lock in on how do we make machine learning more human and how do we make the natural language process seamless, invisible if you can. And then if we think about how the automation game goes, we're seeing opportunities to build new things in brand new ways. We talked, like just mentioned, taking Claude Sonnet, stuffing it into a fork of VS Code. Boom, now we have Cursor worth $200 billion dollars, and they're not stopping. It's you don't necessarily need to use this tool, but like somebody drew that UI. Somebody
Yeah.
thought about the developer's workflow and said, okay, VS Code works like this, but Cursor is going to work like that. There's so much UX work and there's so much UI work still to do, especially as we invent and build so many new tools for niche use cases. Designers, it's a party time right now. Our jobs aren't going away. We're needed more now than ever.
I could not agree more. That's a great place to end. Chad, thanks again for coming on the show today.
So much fun, Alex. I appreciate the invite, man. Good hanging with you every time.
No doubt. Where can people go to find more about what you're up to?
I'm running a simple GitHub page these days, chadbercea.github.io. It connects to my Dribble, my Instagram, my LinkedIn. I got some projects up there. You can see my portfolio. I'm nerding out.
Yeah. Word.